And she will tell you she heard Peyton, in a very desperate voice, screaming, "Mommy, get up. Mommy, get up." She will tell you that that went on for 2 minutes. She didn't think of anything at the time. Maybe Mommy's asleep, not getting up. She remembers the voice, though, and the angst in the voice. She goes back into her house, doesn't think anything of it. Now, at this time, something different happens. A few of the neighbors will tell you that all through the warm months, Wendy always had the windows open, the shades open. Always. However, right at this time, windows are shut, shades are drawn. Everything goes dark. Some of the neighbors you will hear, they will tell you that you never saw Wendy again, you never saw Peggy. At night, they would see the glow of a television and nothing else. Days pass. Fast forward to July 31st. Cynthia Abbott, the neighbor who heard, "Mommy, get up, Mommy, get up." She is now very nervous. She calls the police, and she tells the police, "Can you please do a welfare check?" I haven't seen the young boy Peyton. The last time she saw him was at her daughter's birthday party, I believe on the 21st. Peyton came over and played. She'll even tell you Peyton taught her daughter how to ride a bike. She's concerned. She hasn't seen him. The police respond. They go there for a welfare check. They knock on the door. There's no answer. They go around back. The back door is unlocked, but no one's answering. It's a welfare check, so they go in and check on the welfare of whoever might be there. They will tell you that they find a pizza. Half of it's still on the stove, half of it's downstairs in the first floor living area. You will hear evidence throughout this trial that that was the area designated for the defendant. That is where he stayed. The police will tell you that the pizza was warm. Both halves was warm. They looked around, they checked every room. No one could be found.
In 2012, in the fall, in October of 2012, Mr. Tighe lost his job. He had been employed, like I told you, over at Ultra Gloss. He lost that employment and fell in hard times. You will hear that Wendy Ralston invited him to move in to Stone Creek with her and Peyton. Okay? He moved into the house sometime in the spring of 2013. You're going to hear April or May. And it almost immediately wasn't a great situation. There was frequent arguing. There were calls by both Dan and Wendy to the Tallmadge Police Department. And you will hear that the police department went out in response to those calls. Some of us may be familiar with domestic violence. I think the evidence will show from the detective and the officers that domestic violence in this country and in this community is taken very seriously. It's treated like no other crime, quite frankly. If the police have any inkling that there's domestic violence or that there's even threats of domestic violence, they make an arrest. It's called a preferred arrest policy. They have to make an arrest, and whoever the primary aggressor is, if there is an aggressor, goes to jail. Sometimes both parties go to jail. What you'll hear is in the late spring and early summer of 2013, the police would go out to 574 Stone Creek, either called by Dan or Wendy Ralston, and they would talk to them. And essentially, what you have, ladies and gentlemen, is there was arguing going on, and they weren't getting along. There was no physical violence. There was no signs of injury on behalf of either party. Nobody was cut or scratched or bleeding. There wasn't even allegations of any threats either way. So because of that, the Tallmadge Police Department would talk to Dan, talk to Wendy, essentially tell them to try to get along or to separate. and they would leave. Again, if there was any violence whatsoever, the police would have made an arrest. They didn't do that. They didn't even force either of the parties to leave the house. You will hear that in July of 2013, Wendy Ralston makes a phone call to the police. I think you're going to hear a portion of that. Essentially, what she's doing is she's calling the police not because she's afraid for her safety, not because she's afraid for Peyton's safety, but she's essentially asking the police to evict Mr. Tighe. She wants the police to come out and force him to leave, and they are telling her that it's a civil matter. You need to get a lawyer and file an eviction if you don't want him living there, because you're the one that invited him into the house. She doesn't like that. I think you'll hear that she was frustrated. I think you'll hear that she was angry.